What if the simplest acts of kindness and gratitude could transform an entire community? In the quiet town of Maple Haven, tucked in a small nursing home, one woman's unwavering dedication to honoring an old friend's legacy sparked a journey that would change lives in ways no one could have imagined. This is the story of Sister Claire, a compassionate nun whose kindness extended beyond her duties. When she discovered a collection of poems written by Mr. Aldo, an elderly resident who had been her teacher years ago, Claire made it her mission to share his work with the world. What started as an effort to raise funds for the nursing home blossomed into a powerful movement of healing, second chances, and community spirit. Through her unwavering belief in Aldo's words and the transformative power of art, Claire not only revived his spirit but also brought hope to an entire nursing home. Today, I'm going to share this inspiring story of compassion, the impact of gratitude, and how art can heal even the deepest wounds. Stay tuned for an unforgettable journey of love, legacy, and transformation. Maple Haven was a peaceful nursing home tucked away on the outskirts of a quiet town. The residents here lived out their days in calm, well-cared-for comfort. It was a place where everyone had a story to tell, though not all of those stories were remembered. The halls were filled with the gentle hum of conversation and the occasional burst of laughter, creating a warm, home-like atmosphere. But among all the familiar faces and voices, one person always stood out: Sister Claire. Sister Claire wasn't just any nun. She was a radiant woman whose presence illuminated the entire nursing home. Her heart was as vast as the sky, and she believed deeply in the value of every person. She had been visiting Maple Haven regularly for years, and with each visit, she brought warmth, kindness, and a lightness that the residents loved. It wasn't just her smile, but the way she truly listened, the way she took time to get to know each person and make them feel seen. Her visits weren't just part of her duties, they were a mission of compassion. But there was one resident who captured her attention more than anyone else. Mr. Aldo was a quiet man, reserved and withdrawn. He spent most of his days sitting alone by the window, gazing out at the world, or reading a book in a far corner of the common room. He didn't engage with many of the other residents, and most of them barely noticed him, lost in their own routines. Yet, something about Aldo intrigued Sister Claire. It wasn't just his silence. It was the feeling that there was a story inside him, a life filled with experiences and wisdom that no one had taken the time to uncover. She could sense there was more to him than the quiet man who seemed to have withdrawn from the world. His presence was like a shadow of something deeper, something untold, and that sparked her curiosity. Claire believed that everyone had a purpose, that everyone had something valuable to share, and she was determined to find out what Aldo's story was, if only he would open up. As Claire continued her visits, she began to take a more personal interest in Aldo, hoping that one day he might let her into the world he had built within himself. Little did she know that her journey with Aldo would lead to something much bigger than she could ever imagine. As Sister Claire spent more time at Maple Haven, she began to see something in Mr. Aldo that no one else seemed to notice. What appeared at first to be a quiet, reserved elderly man, with his days spent in solitude, hiding in the corner of the room or gazing out of his window, was, in fact, someone far more profound. A slow realization dawned on Claire that Mr. Aldo wasn't just another resident. He was once a teacher, a mentor, and a guide. He had shaped the lives of many, including her own. When she was just a young girl, Aldo had been her teacher, someone who had introduced her to the world of literature, poetry, and the beauty of words. He was the one who had sparked her love for language and had shown her how to find meaning in the simplest of things. Claire had never forgotten the lessons Aldo had taught her. He had taught her to look deeper into the world, to see the poetry in everyday life, to find beauty even in the most unexpected places. He had given her the tools to express herself and helped her understand that every word she spoke, every poem she wrote, carried weight. His influence had shaped the woman she became, and for that, Claire was forever grateful. But now, as she sat beside him in the nursing home, Claire realized that Aldo, the teacher who had once opened her eyes to the world, seemed to have lost sight of his own legacy. The vibrant man who had filled her young heart with inspiration had now faded into the background, his words silenced, his poetry forgotten. His talent had been left to gather dust, and no one seemed to care. One afternoon, while visiting Aldo in his room, Claire's eyes were drawn to an old, forgotten notebook tucked away in a drawer. It was thick with age, the leather cover worn and cracked, as though it had been untouched for years. When she opened it, she was stunned. The pages were filled with poems, his poems. Each page, written with care, revealed his thoughts, emotions, and reflections from years past. Claire was captivated by the words on those pages. The poems were not just simple expressions. They were windows into Aldo's soul. Each word seemed to carry a weight of history, of experiences that were no longer part of his current life. They spoke of love, loss, beauty, and the passage of time. They were a treasure, a piece of Aldo's legacy, and Claire could feel that. As she read through the poems, a deep sense of responsibility began to stir within her. She knew she couldn't keep these words hidden away. Aldo's poems weren't just for him. They were meant for the world. These words had the power to inspire others, just as they had once inspired her. And more than that, they could help Aldo rediscover a part of himself that had been lost. His legacy, buried beneath the years, needed to be revived. But Claire saw something else, something even more important. These poems, this treasure, could serve another purpose. She knew that by sharing them, she could raise funds for the nursing home, allowing her to improve the lives of all the residents. She envisioned a better future for the nursing home, one where the residents' lives had more meaning, more joy, and more opportunities. The poems could fund initiatives, improvements, and programs that would make a real difference in the residents' lives. It wasn't just about money. It was about honoring Aldo and giving him the recognition he deserved. It was about showing the residents that their lives, no matter their age or stage in life, had immense value. Through Aldo's poetry, the world would see them not just as elderly residents, but as people with stories, with dreams, with legacies worth sharing. Claire's heart swelled with determination. She knew what she had to do. She couldn't let these poems remain hidden in a forgotten notebook. They had the power to change lives, to inspire hope, and to give the residents of Maple Haven something to look forward to, a new sense of purpose and connection. And so, with unwavering resolve, Claire set out to help Aldo rediscover his voice and legacy. She would not just help him find his place in the world again, but she would also transform the lives of everyone around her. It was time to let Aldo's words be heard. But not everyone shared Sister Claire's vision for Aldo's legacy. While her heart was full of determination, not everyone at Maple Haven saw her efforts in the same light. The first person to voice his concerns was Mr. Walton, the nursing home director. He was a practical man, always focused on the well-being of the residents, but also deeply aware of the community's perception of the nursing home. One afternoon, as Claire discussed her plans for Aldo's poetry book, he paused and looked at her with concern in his eyes. "Sister Claire," he began, his tone cautious, "I understand your desire to honor Mr. Aldo, truly I do. But I wonder if this is the right time, or the right way. We have to be careful about how we present these things. The staff and residents are already talking, and you don't want to give people the wrong impression." Claire could sense the skepticism in Mr. Walton's voice. He wasn't concerned about Aldo's legacy. He was worried about the optics, about how the project might be perceived. She could understand his caution. Maple Haven was a place where the appearance of everything had to be carefully managed. But she also understood that sometimes, the most important things weren't always the easiest to present. "Mr. Walton," Claire said, her voice firm yet compassionate, "Aldo was my teacher. He shaped my life in ways that no one else could. This isn't just about publishing poems. This is about giving back to someone who helped me find my purpose. Yes, this will help the nursing home, but it's also about honoring him, about reminding the world that even the quietest among us have something valuable to share." Despite Mr. Walton's hesitations, Claire knew she couldn't turn back. She couldn't let the weight of others' judgments stop her from doing what she felt was right. So, she pressed forward, working tirelessly on the project with Aldo, helping him rediscover his poetry, and organizing every detail for the book's release. When the book, Echoes of the Heart, was finally ready, the nursing home was buzzing with excitement. The residents had heard the whispers of the project, and now, as the book came to life, there was a palpable sense of anticipation. Some saw it as a beautiful gesture, a way to honor Aldo's past and raise funds for the facility. But others, especially those who hadn't been a part of the process, were skeptical. It wasn't long before Sister Margaret, the Mother Superior, pulled Claire aside one afternoon. Her gentle face, usually so full of understanding, was marked with a mixture of concern and caution. "I understand your intentions, Claire," Sister Margaret said, her voice calm and measured. "But you must think carefully. What will people think about you spending so much time with Aldo? Appearances matter, my dear. You've never faced such scrutiny before. The eyes of the community are watching." Claire listened carefully, her heart heavy with the weight of Sister Margaret's words. She understood the delicate balance between doing what was right and being mindful of how it might be perceived. But she also knew that if she didn't follow her heart now, she would forever regret it. "I know the risks, sister," Claire said, meeting Margaret's eyes. "But sometimes you have to follow your heart, even when others don't understand." Aldo's poetry is a gift, not just to him, but to all of us. This isn't about appearances. It's about giving him the dignity he deserves and reminding everyone here that their lives matter. Sister Margaret was quiet for a moment, her eyes searching Claire's face for any sign of doubt. But Claire's conviction was clear, and after a long pause, Margaret nodded. "I see your heart, Claire. I only wish for you to be careful and to make sure this journey brings you peace, not heartache." With Sister Margaret's blessing, Claire continued on her path, determined to honor Aldo in the way he deserved. Yet, even as she pushed forward, she couldn't ignore the whispers of doubt that lingered around her. The rumors about her relationship with Aldo grew louder, and the skepticism from some of the staff and residents only fueled the pressure. But Claire didn't waver. She knew that the power of Aldo's poetry, his words, his legacy, was far more important than the judgment of others. And with every step, she grew more determined. This was a journey of honoring someone who had once helped shape her life, and it was worth every challenge, every obstacle. As the project unfolded, Claire realized something profound. No matter the challenges, no matter the doubts, following her heart was the most important thing she could do. For in the end, it wasn't about the rumors or the opinions of others. It was about giving a voice to someone who had been silenced for too long. The launch event for Echoes of the Heart was a mixture of nerves and inspiration. Claire stood in front of a room filled with residents, volunteers, and even some of the nursing home skeptics, holding the precious collection of Aldo's poems in her hands. Her heart raced as she felt the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about the book. It was about everything it represented. Aldo's legacy, the residents' dignity, and the power of words to bring about change. As she stepped forward, Claire took a deep breath, steadying herself. Her voice trembled slightly as she began to speak, but there was a passion in her words that couldn't be ignored. "These poems are more than just words," Claire said, her gaze sweeping across the room. She could see the mixture of faces, some curious, some doubtful, some hopeful. "They are a testament to how every life has value, how every experience, no matter how small, can be transformed into beauty." Aldo reminds us that even in the most difficult moments, we can leave a legacy of hope and inspiration. The room fell silent. For a brief, suspended moment, it felt as if the entire nursing home had collectively held its breath. And then, as if on cue, the applause began. Slow at first, tentative, as if everyone was unsure whether this was truly something worth celebrating. But soon, the applause built, growing louder and more enthusiastic, until it became a thunderous wave of appreciation that filled the entire space. It was a moment of validation, not just for Claire, who had worked tirelessly to make Aldo's poetry come to life, but also for Aldo, whose words had touched hearts that had long since been closed off. And perhaps most importantly, it was validation for everyone in the room. The nursing home, once a place where life seemed to fade into quiet obscurity, now felt alive with possibility. The applause wasn't just for the book. It was for the message it carried. That every life, no matter its age or circumstances, mattered. Later in the evening, as the crowd slowly began to disperse, a young journalist approached Aldo. She was visibly moved, her eyes glistening with emotion. She had been listening to Aldo's words during the event, and something in his poetry had struck a deep chord within her. "I've read some of your poems," she said softly, her voice full of reverence. "They touched something inside me, something I didn't even know was there. Thank you for sharing them. Thank you for letting the world see what you've written." Aldo, who had spent so many years in quiet solitude, felt a lump rise in his throat. He had never imagined that his words, once lost and forgotten, would have the power to reach someone so deeply. His eyes welled up with tears, and for the first time in a long time, he felt seen. Not just as the quiet man sitting in the corner of the nursing home, but as a person whose experiences, struggles, and talents had meaning. Aldo whispered with a gratitude that only he could truly understand. "Thanks, Sister Claire." His voice cracked with emotion as he continued. "She saw in me what I couldn't see in myself." His words, though soft, carried a weight that resonated deeply in the room. Claire, who had been watching from a distance, felt her heart swell with pride. She had known from the start that Aldo's poetry had power, but seeing the impact it had on others, seeing the way it brought people together, made them reflect, and even healed them, was more than she could have hoped for. The evening, which had begun with so much uncertainty, had turned into something beautiful and transformative. Aldo's words were no longer just poems in a forgotten notebook. They had become a bridge between the past and the present, a source of healing for those who had been struggling in silence. And as the applause faded, replaced by soft conversations and quiet smiles, Claire realized that this project had become about so much more than raising funds for the nursing home or even honoring Aldo's legacy. It had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that no matter how small or overlooked a person's life might seem, their voice, their story, and their impact were significant. The success of the evening was more than a tangible outcome. It was the beginning of a new chapter for everyone at Maple Haven. For the residents, it was a reminder that they had stories worth telling. For Claire, it was a moment of fulfillment, seeing Aldo's life, once overshadowed by time and doubt, now glowing with the light of recognition. And for Aldo, it was the realization that his quiet life, his written words, had found a place in the world, touching hearts in ways he had never imagined. The launch event for Echoes of the Heart was a victory not just for the book, but for every person who had a part in it, and for every person whose life had been touched by the simple, profound act of sharing a story. In the weeks that followed, Echoes of the Heart became more than just a local success. It evolved into a symbol of hope for the entire community. As the proceeds from the book continued to grow, the support for Claire's vision blossomed. The nursing home underwent much-needed renovations, with rooms updated to create a more comfortable and welcoming space. A new reading room, complete with a small library, was established, offering a place for both residents and visitors to enjoy stories and poetry. But Claire's work didn't stop there. With the help of Mr. Walton and dedicated volunteers, she launched cultural programs and activities that added richness and vibrancy to the residents' lives. The impact of these changes was felt by everyone. Suddenly, Maple Haven became a place where creativity, community, and joy flourished. Then, just when Claire thought the project had reached its peak, a large local foundation, moved by the story of Echoes of the Heart, stepped forward with a significant donation. This generous contribution made it possible for Claire to create a sensory garden, a peaceful space for residents to connect with nature. Additionally, a multifunctional room was built for artistic and recreational activities, further enriching the lives of the residents. What had begun as a small act of gratitude had blossomed into something truly extraordinary, bringing life, connection, and purpose to all who were part of Maple Haven. In the months that followed, Sister Claire witnessed a remarkable transformation, not just within the nursing home, but in herself and the people around her. One morning, Sister Anne, who had been one of the strongest critics of Claire's project, approached her with a look of humility on her face. "Claire, may I speak with you?" she asked, her voice soft and uncertain. "I want to apologize. I didn't understand why you spent so much time with Aldo, but now I see the good it's done for him, and for all of us. I'm sorry for judging you without knowing the truth." Claire smiled warmly, moved by Anne's change of heart. She gently took Anne's hand and reassured her, "Anne, there's no need to apologize. What matters is that we're united in this now." We're all working for a greater purpose. With that, Claire's work had not only touched the lives of the residents, but had also healed divisions among the staff. What began as a simple act of gratitude had brought them all closer together, united in a shared mission to create something lasting and meaningful for the community. On the day of the Sensory Garden's inauguration, Maple Haven was filled with residents, staff, volunteers, and community members, all gathered to celebrate the project's success. Aldo stood before the crowd, his voice trembling as he read one of his poems, The Guiding Hand. A hand guided me when I was lost in the dark, a light I never asked for, but that found me. Now I walk not alone, because those who give hope are never truly alone. The applause that followed was deafening, with many in the crowd wiping away tears. It was a powerful moment of connection, a reminder that even the smallest acts of love can create ripples of change. After the ceremony, Aldo approached Claire, his eyes full of gratitude. "I could never have done this without you," he said. Claire smiled through her own tears. "Aldo, you were the one who wrote those words. You brought hope. I just showed the world what was already inside you." Months later, Echoes of the Heart became more than just a local success. It spread to schools, libraries, and hospitals. The story of Aldo and Claire became a shining example of how gratitude and compassion can truly transform lives. Every time Claire walked through the nursing home, she was reminded that no act of kindness, no matter how small, can change the world.